Good evening, everyone. Please put your hands together for your MC this evening, Mr. Andy Ballock. Thank you. It's almost as though I gave myself my introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to the Future Thinkers Forum, where you can be a part of a career-shaping conversation presented by RMIT University. I am your MC this evening. My name is Andy Ballock, and I am currently hermetically sealed into this jacket. I don't know if you've ever bought an item of clothing before a pandemic and then dealt with a pandemic. The middle button is hanging on for dear life, so if that bursts out and hits anyone in the face, I'm very sorry. It is my pleasure to host this evening where influential thought leaders unpack hot topics from career development and technological advancements, social innovations being developed by RMIT and industry, to inspirational stories of change that illuminate opportunities in every challenge that we face. I'd also like to start, RMIT and I both would like to acknowledge the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nation, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT University respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders past and present. RMIT also acknowledges the traditional custodians and their ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business, and recognise and respect the unique cultural contribution that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people bring to our communities. We also acknowledge any elders or Aboriginal people who are present here tonight. I'd also like to start off with a bit of housekeeping. As always, chuck your phones on silent. If you don't know how to do that already, you should. Chuck your phones on silent. It helps to be reminded. Toilets are back in the foyer from whence you came. There are none in here, so please don't try to go to any toilets in this room. The front, there are two emergency exits, the door that you came in and this door right here. I can barely point to that. That's the level of movement I currently have. I'm like a Ken doll, just up top. This is also a TED-style talk, so there won't be any questions during the seminar. However, afterwards, please absolutely feel free to accost any of the speakers and ask them a million questions. I'm sure that you have them. And finally, you've been given a ticket with a number. We will be drawing prizes at the very end of all the presentations, so please hold on to that ticket. Which brings me to the very first speaker. Abigail Forsyth, co-founder of KeepCup. Abigail Forsyth is the co-founder and spokesperson of KeepCup, a business that began as a side project while she raised her children. Her ever-present entrepreneurial spirit and vision for sustainability has seen KeepCup become Australia's leading reusable barista standard coffee cup. Presenting on shaping ideas into successful ventures, please give a very warm welcome to Abigail Forsyth.
That's great. Well, hello. Thank you. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to elders past, present, and acknowledge the land was never been ceded. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about KeepCup. KeepCup started back in 2009. And I guess it was a business I thought I'd be able to start and do while I raised my children. I'd be able to do it from the garage and there'd be no more disposable cups, because once people found out they weren't recyclable, we'd get rid of them. And that hasn't transpired, but it's a business that's taken me all over the world. We've now got offices in London. We've sold in 65 countries, and we've, KeepCup users have probably diverted millions and millions of disposable cups from landfills. So thank you. We are a member of 1% for the Planet, which we pledge to donate 1% of our revenue to environmental causes, and to date we've given over $2.6 million to those causes, and we're a B Corp. So you're going to hear tonight from some pretty incredible technological innovations, and here I am here with just a cup. So I wanted to talk about cultural change and how important that is in probably the success of KeepCup and probably the success of most businesses that do well and engage people. So when I was thinking about starting KeepCup, my daughter was very young. I was breastfeeding her and reading this book by Jared Diamond called Collapse. So that was 17 years ago. And we'd thought about KeepCup and thought about whether we would do it or not. But the real driver came when I read this book, and it was about societies that cease to exist on the planet. And one of them was Easter Island. So that island in the Pacific, it's got these massive stone sculptures. And the island used to be covered in trees. It was covered in forest. And over generations of people making these sculptures, transporting them around the island, how bulky and strong you'd have to be to make them and all sorts of things. Gradually, by and by, all the trees got chopped down. And one of his students put their hand up and said, well, who would have cut down the last tree? And he said, well, it wouldn't have been a tree because, you would have had the big giants that, we could wrap our arms around, and then they would have been chopped down, and then smaller trees and smaller trees and smaller trees, and finally it just would have been a sapling, and then the trees could no longer grow. So it's this sense of incremental change and this also this idea that we're, as a culture, we cling to certain norms that may not be benefiting us anymore. So we cling to the idea of convenience and that we must have bottled water or single-use cups because we're busy and we need them, but they're actually pointers of things that we need to change as a culture in order to survive. And I think that's what really excited me about KeepCup and starting the business. And I think it's been that signifier of cultural change and that driver that has kept the business going and engaging with people, because I think when KeepCup first started, maybe like 2011 or 12, you'd walk along with one down the street and you'd see someone else with one, and you'd sort of give them a bit of a wink and a nod, like you were in a club. It's changed now, but yeah, it was a pretty exciting time. So this is me back in 1999 with my brother Jamie. So I did a law degree. Then I was working as a lawyer. Jamie did gold and silversmithing and marketing at RMIT, and he would call me up every week with a new business idea. And finally he said, I've seen these stores, Pret a Manger. He was living in London. I was like, well, that should be easy. I like people. I'm a good cook. How hard could it be to start a chain of cafes? Turned out it was very hard. So we did that for 10 years, and in that time we saw the rise of the disposable cup. Coffee was becoming a big thing. If you wanted to make someone look really busy and professional, you put a laptop in one hand, a disposable cup in the other, and there you were, high flyer, aspirational. So we got in some blue disposable cups with blue bag on them. We thought they looked pretty amazing. And I remember a lawyer coming in and going, oh, I feel like a baby drinking out of this thing. I'm sucking away on it. And, again, it goes to this cultural thing. Initially, people were like, oh, I feel a bit like a child sucking out of a sippy cup, to it being very cool and trendy. And now people are starting to look and go, is that something we should be doing? So culture keeps shifting the way we perceive certain behaviours. So from there we worked out the disposable cups weren't recyclable, and we thought, if we multiply that out from blue bag to Melbourne to Australia to the world, think of all the disposable cups that are going to landfill and what a waste that is. So we thought we would just go down to Myer, buy a reusable cup, sell it in our store, give people a discount, and off we'd go. We went down to Myer, and all the cups were sort of big. They didn't fit under the group heads of the machine. We thought, well, here's an opportunity. So we designed KeepCup. And one of my favourite stories is because it was all about sustainability, we went to see a lot of Australian manufacturers, and one guy goes, are you crazy? Like, this is just a plastic cup. He said, I've got millions of dollars worth of tools sitting over there that are much better products, much more well thought through than yours. But they couldn't sell them. So I'm going to save you some money. If you can't sell this off the prototype that you've got, then don't bother making it. Just put it aside. So through Blue Bag, we had a whole lot of catering customers. So we started calling them up and trying to sell them the product. And NAB had just moved down to their building in the Docklands that was a 6-star green building. And we pitched it to them and said, hey, you've got, you know, solar on the roof, you're collecting rainwater, you're doing all these things, but inside your building, all your staff are using disposable packaged cups. So we got a meeting there. I rode down on my bike, had the cup in a shoebox, pitched it to the NAB sustainability team, and they said we're going to buy 5,000 of them. I couldn't believe it. It almost paid for the tool. So the guy was right. You do need to sell your product. And I think looking back on that moment, when people are buying something that you're selling, they're not just selling the product that you're making and the care that you put into it. They're buying you and your commitment to what you're doing, your belief in it, and and they're making a judgment about your ability to see it through. So all the time, Jamie and I would talk about this, and he was on the side of it's got to be sexy, and I was on the side of it's got to be sustainable. And I think in any business nowadays, we're all walking that line. So these facts are pretty compelling. There's enough disposable cups in, enough plastic in 20 disposable cups and lids to make one KeepCup, but it's not really compelling to get you to change your behaviour and sustain it. What is compelling is making it beautiful, making it something that you want to enjoy, making it aspirational, making it a place you want to go to. So walking this line between these two things, making it beautiful and making it functional, and having the substance sitting behind what you're doing is really important. And it was actually this problem, I guess, was coined by a guy called Peter Dresser in the 1970s, and it's called the clothesline paradox. And it was when people were producing electrical goods and they were putting the 5-star ratings on the 4-star ratings on the dryer. And he said, well, you've got a 5-star rating on your dryer, you've got a 1-star rating on your clothes dryer, but what happens if you put them on a line and let the sun dry them? Like, how do you count the benefit of not doing something? How do you count the benefit of not using a disposable cup, of not using a single-use water bottle? How do we quantify that? How do we celebrate that? And what do we do about that? And I guess that's still a challenge of how, as we move to circular economy, as we put more recycled materials into things, how do we celebrate what we're not doing and the impact that that is having? I don't have the answer for that. I hope one of you is going to work it out. So as time's gone by, we in the pandemic, disposable reusable cups have been banned. They've only just been reintroduced back into McDonald's for 3 years. So it's been a pretty tough time. And in this time, we were thinking about how do we expand our product range? And again, you know, Lord knows the world doesn't need any more stuff. But but then on the other hand, we love stuff. We love new things. We love beautiful things, and we love to engage with them. So one of the challenges we had was how do we do that? So we were thinking about water bottles. Does the world need another water bottle? Probably not. But then we were thinking about, well, how do we solve a problem here and how we bring it to life? So the problems we thought of was, you know, when you're travelling and you know, if you want to carry a reusable water bottle and a cup, do you want to carry them both together? Is a way you could make that more seamless to carry in a short amount of time? How do you put ice into a water bottle? How do you put fruit? How do you make it more usable? How do you put bubble tea in there? So we looked at that, and then we looked at hygiene. So how many of you had a water bottle that's like goes mouldy and you know can't clean it? This one splits in half, and you can clean that. And we just launched that earlier this year. So you know, once you innovate, you've got to keep moving along that journey and working out new ways to engage new customers and find ways to, I guess, improve what you're doing and how you do it. So I guess there's a few lessons there. The other thing I want to talk about was that when we started KeepCup, we went to a trade fair in Sydney, and a girl came up to me and she said, oh, look, I'd really love to carry one of these reusable cups. I think it's the right thing to do, but I drink Campos coffee and like they're way too cool for reuse. And I was furious. And then the next week, Will Young, who was the owner of Campos Coffee at the time, called up and he said, I've been looking for a product like this for 10 years. I'd like to buy 5,000 of them. And overnight, we changed what was cool in coffee. And I think when we think about that, is thinking about, well, if you're trying to drive behaviour change or have people move to do something, who are the enablers? Who are the people who are going to help you on that journey to drive the change you seek? And for us, it was the baristas and the people in the specialty coffee industry, so that when you walked in and you carried your KeepCup, they wouldn't sort of roll their eyes, oh my God, what have they brought in? They would go, oh, that's cool. I love that thing. I want to use it. So think about when you're doing things, who are the enablers, who are the blockers, who are the people you need to talk to in order to bring your idea to life, because there's so many people who will help you on the journey along the way. So yeah, it's about, what is the cultural change you're driving? What is the problem you're solving? Can you make it circular? Can you and circularity begins with design. How you design a product? Can you reuse it? Can you repair it? What happens at end of life, and what's the difference that it's making in the world? Who are the people who are going to help you on the journey? Who are the people who provide permission? Who are the blockers? My grandfather always used to say, lots of people talk about things, but very few people do them. So never hesitate to ask people, because when people are detractors, they often give you the best ideas about how to overcome some of the problems you're having with your ideas. And then finally, make it beautiful, make it something people want to enjoy and talk about and use, because, you know, when you paint a picture of the future, you want to make it one that people want to go to, and that it's inspirational and aspirational and hopefully a bit of fun. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Abigail Forsyth. Oh, beautiful. Sorry, I'm just running and somebody has to be on button watch. I was going to click to the next slide. That's okay. The next speaker will. The next speaker is, in fact, Nithya Solomon, the Director of CBD North Innovation Catalyst, Director of Health Transformation Lab at RMIT University. Nithya Solomon is an innovation executive, strategist, and versatile business leader, renowned for her creativity in shaping unique ventures in philanthropy, social innovation, and public health. She has held senior leadership roles in private and public sectors in Australia, USA, and Latin America. With top-tier global and national brands, Nithya is sought after for her ability to convert insights and abstract ideas into action and results. Presenting on innovations revolutionising health and social justice, please give a very warm welcome for Nithya Solomon.
Fantastic. So thank you, and it's just so fantastic to be here amongst this incredible group of speakers and the beautiful Capitol Theatre, talking innovation, revolution, health, social justice, many of my favourite words that can be uttered within a breath. But actually quite an important time at the moment where these elements are perhaps needed more than ever, and to come together in ways that they may not have before. So I love referring back to this quite timeless definition of health by the World Health Organization, written all the way back in 1948, which defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely an absence of disease or infirmity. It's such a beautiful statement in its simplicity and conciseness, but carries so much complexity when you really think about the layers of our structures and societies and interactions that really come together to determine what health or well-being could be. And to even, I guess, appreciate one slice of this, I also love reflecting back on some of the social movements of recent times that also speak volumes and are quite telling in terms of what really matters to many of the world's population in terms of the interdependencies in issues and the facets that really impact health and well-being. It's also quite telling of how much work really needs to be done to achieve the aspirations as laid out in the WHO statement from the prior slide. I fully acknowledge that this is only a very tiny slice of the aspect of what health is, and there's much nuance in all of these issues and other issues that are not here as well. But interestingly, they all tell a very common story of actually the level of deep disruption and challenging of systems and structures and default behaviours that have just we experience in our lives. And quite a big, urgent call to really shake that up in terms of designing better for the future. And I'd like to share some examples from RMIT where we are really looking at how system change might be precipitated through educational institutions like ours, and how some of the work that we are doing can look to do this in the realm of health and social well-being. So I'm going to start talking about the Health Transformation Lab, and this is an entity that was formed about 5 years ago, anchor funded by Cisco at the technology giant, but deliberately placed within RMIT University to be a space that could be pretty much the premier destination that could catalyse very new and, as we describe it, radically anti-disciplinary ways of working across the health system and beyond. So we're a place where major corporations can come to bring their very hard to solve problems. We're a space where technology can clasp hands with the human interfaces and design interfaces, and we really work in a range of ways with a number of organisations. So let me give you one example of the way we work, and this is an actual, so we do prototype specific types of products. The image on the screen is a wearable device called the CAT pin, Conversation at Therapy pin. It is being trialled in an aged care setting at the moment to look at insights around the extent to which conversation levels can be correlated with feelings of loneliness. And so the design and the appearance might look simple, but there's quite a lot of machine learning and other technology features underneath that as well. We also work in ways such as this, where we look for opportunities to bring students together with industries to go through very bespoke design studio style sessions where problems can be addressed or prototypes can be facilitated. And in this particular example, what you're seeing here are some design offerings that could speak to improved health experiences for cancer patients as they're going through their treatment process. We see many organisations who like to come to our spaces to experience the world of RMIT and innovation for themselves. And here these companies are sending some of their senior-most leadership to come to our spaces and be taken through quite an immersive process where they can meet with faculty and speak with faculty, where they can be connected to some of the leading edge ideas, where they can be guided through innovation and a range of other leadership style development. And we also have some really amazing spaces where digital prototyping can take place. And what you see here is something that we called the RMIT Cisco Sandbox, and it's a digitally kitted out physical space that's modular. It can be configured, but we really have opened this for entrepreneurs, designers, clinicians, policymakers to be able to find a way to come together and really, in a tech-enabled space, prototype and problem solve and innovate. Extending these models of working a bit further, there are quite a few efforts at RMIT that are really looking to cement this precinct of CBD North as a prime destination for social innovation. And CBD North is the area that's connected to RMIT's Melbourne City campus. It's quite an exciting strategic place in terms of some of the surrounding districts like Arden, Fisherman's Bend, Docklands, all receiving a quite significant government investment in terms of opportunities for renewal and designing better for the future. So over the next year, and RMIT's vision for CBD North is really to look at how we can show the ways that issues of health and community and justice can really interface with domains and skills that are in technology, enterprise design, in a precinct that has physical geographical boundaries, but is also quite a strategically networked precinct in terms of the relationships and the collaborations that result in an ecosystem that's quite large globally and fairly diverse. And so some of the, over the next year, we will see activations that bring this model for life. So imagine, if you will, that critically acclaimed writers with lived experience of disability are setting the narrative for the future of health and what that should look like. Imagine the social robot that one day might be working in the health system, making the day-to-day workings of a healthcare worker easier, and who the next day could feature in a neurodiverse film looking at the interactions between humans and robots. Imagine, if you will, that Twitter sentiment analysis on health and climate change could be sit alongside media portrayals of care workers. It could sit alongside custom-developed indicators around housing affordability by LGA and housing precarity, and create a rich datascape from which social innovation conversations and efforts could really be catalysed. These are all actual pieces of work that are in train, and we're quite excited over the next year to be bringing some of these to life. And what they also speak to is a very different way of collaborating with other organisations and combining resources to work together, which sounds very cliched when you say those words, but actually it seems to be harder to achieve in practice. And I'd love to share one recent example of this style of a partnership model in action to really push some of the status quo thinking. The RMIT Health Transformation Lab recently partnered with Cisco to look at the opportunity for technology to really transform some aspects of the aged care sector in terms of providing care, dignity and respect. The Royal Commission into Aged Care yielded many recommendations and called technology as an enabler. We really saw an opportunity to frame a response that opened up people's eyes as to what is really possible with technology today, that what might have been thought of as science fiction is actually kind of reality at the moment. And you do have, it's very possible for AI and machine learning, the Internet of Things, cybersecurity to all really come together seamlessly and create very high quality care experiences if you can imagine that potential and have the ways to prototype for that. I'm going to play a brief video that shows some of this work in action.
We have a long and very successful partnership with RMIT. Today's another fantastic milestone in that journey. We are evolving the partnership with RMIT to include in the National Industry Innovation Network, or NIN.
The sandbox here is a digitally rich collaboration and prototyping studio. As you can see, there are so many amazing technologies to draw from, and the possibilities are limitless in terms of these articulate spaces that are also designed for privacy and security.
We're really excited to say we're open, we're ready to collaborate with you to create new digital and hybrid futures for aged care and for healthcare, in which digitization can clasp hands with respect and connection can drive improvement.
Great. And before I conclude, so hopefully you've got a little bit of a glimpse of the many ways of innovation showing up in health and social justice at RMIT, but I'd love to introduce you to one of the more recent colleagues of the Health Transformation Lab and the Innovation Catalyst at RMIT. And this is Spot, who you saw in the video. Spot is a Boston Dynamics robotic quadruped. I thought Spot might stop here, but Spot is wandering around. So, you know, robots can be autonomous as well. This is a highly sophisticated piece of robotics. It's amazing. It's one of the few robots that can actually walk up the stairs. So you would have seen the way that Spot made its entrance onto the stage. Normally we send it off because then people stop listening once Spot comes on. But those of you who have seen Spot before might have seen videos of navigating through construction sites or navigating hazardous terrain. This Spot we are using to actually look at how healthcare systems could benefit from automation. So not that the robots are taking over jobs, but really how is the robot and the social robot a friend to those in the health system? How could it make life easier? So we're doing some work at the moment, and perhaps Spot will come along for a bit of a walk as well, with nursing students to imagine how do they feel about this robot following them around on their rounds. Are they pleased about that? Are they not? We've heard that it's important to have hands-free while you're nursing. Could a companion like this be helpful in terms of putting down equipment while you can do some caring tasks? There's a lot that we are trying to learn about Spot and how communities feel about Spot and really the true opportunities for social robots. So Spot just arrived this year, so very new and quite an exciting times ahead in terms of what might be possible. Spot's preferred way to go down the stairs is backwards, so we'll say goodbye to Spot for now, but perhaps at the Spot likes the stage, okay. But perhaps at the end of proceedings, if you'd like more of an upfront introduction with Spot, my colleague Mondo and I will be here, so please feel free to come up to the stage and we will make an introduction for you. And with that, I'm going to conclude here, and thank you so much for listening, and over to the next speaker.
Oh, utterly incredible. Thank you so much, Nithya Solomon and Spot. Scene stealer. You can play with Spot afterwards and take photos of Spot and of course ask Nithya Solomon questions as well. Spot will be up on stage after the whole presentation. It is now time for me to introduce Professor Jason Potts. Professor Jason Potts is a distinguished professor of economics and co-director of Blockchain Innovation Hub at RMIT University. Professor Jason Potts' work focuses on the theoretical development of evolutionary economics using complex systems theory. He's a leading researcher on the economics of blockchains, and his current research on the role of creative industries and innovation-driven economic growth and development. To talk on the tech-driven shift towards digital economies, please welcome Professor Jason Potts.
All right, so yeah, I'm Jason Potts. What I'm going to talk about is revolution. And the argument is that we're basically transitioning from a digital economy that we've been living in for the last 300-ish years, 250 years, since this basically way before you were born. And transitioning into a digital economy right now. And that's sort of a cliche that's thrown around a lot. It's a tech revolution. What I want to do in the next 9 minutes is explain to you why it's also an economic revolution, just the nature of that transition that we're going through. So break this down. Industrial age, steam engines, the factory system was the key sort of innovation there. Iron, coal, steel, plastics, oil, blah, 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 blah. Untold wealth, globalization, human population goes from 1 billion to 8 billion. We get to Mars almost, huge revolution. Huge tech revolution, huge social revolution, cultural revolution. The next one that's coming is bigger. And it's bigger in some really interesting ways. And that's what we want to get to. So digital revolution kind of means computers, right? Computers aren't new. We've had them since the 1940s. We've had them networked together since the 1970s. We've been able to shop on them since the 1990s. That entire 50, 60-year computer revolution, we call that phase one, right? Phase one, is ICT, information communications technology. That was the messaging, using computers to send messages to each other and then making those messages even more complex and so on. That trajectory, we pushed that as far and as hard as we can. I mean, quantum is continuing that first revolution. Blockchain is the beginning of the next revolution. And what the nature of that revolution is, it's tech, it's maths, it's cryptography, it's a bunch of stuff. But fundamentally, it's enabling Spot to shop, to have governance, to be an economic agent and not just an autonomous machine agent. Huge difference. All of us in this room, economic agents. We can have bank accounts, we can make choices, we can own stuff, buy stuff, make contracts, enter into contracts, make promises, sell those promises to others. That's the bond market. We can build that forward deeply into the future. That's the global economy. Machines can't do that. They help. They can't do it themselves. The next revolution is that shift, where this sort of distinction between humans and machines as economic agents suddenly gets really fuzzy and weird. That's we're like technically 11 years. I say 3 years into this shift, but the nature of this tech shift, this economic revolution that we're going through now, is a particular type of industrialization. The first 300 years we industrialized work. We took human labor and animal labor and we added, hydraulics and steam engines, and we industrialized work, and we did a lot with that. The next revolution is we industrialize a thing that doesn't even, it sounds weird to even say industrial. We industrialize trust. What is trust? Trust is about 1/3 of the economy. Every time we're using an accountant or a lawyer or a manager or anything that's essentially checking and verifying who you are you allowed to be in this room? Did you do the thing I just asked you to do? Can we confirm that? At various stages of any production process, whether it's in an operating table or in a factory, there's the division of labor means people handing off projects and half-finished tasks to someone else. Trust. What is trust? A firm, a manager, is a mechanism for dealing with, for managing that trust problem. You just watch. You put everyone in the same room and you watch. Laws, regulation, government, trust. That enables us to have sort of systems and coordination mechanisms for people to trust each other, so that I can enter into these contracts with you as another person, and so on. All right, that's about 1/3 of the economy. At the moment, it's crazy expensive. It also hasn't moved technologically since the Middle Ages. A lawyer in the 1600s Amsterdam is, they dress slightly differently, but they more or less do the same thing as they do now. Ditto accountancy from 14th century accountancy. They write in books. The books are digital books now, but it's the same thing. You go through this incredible tech transformation of 5% change year on year compounding for 200 years in industry. Then you go to the services. You go, wow, you guys really suck at innovation. And they do, because we haven't been able to solve the trust problem. We haven't been able to automate it yet. So that's the sort of mental shift you need to make here, is that we're going through another industrial revolution, but this time we're automating a weird sort of thing that sounds like a psychological variable, trust. What is trust? It's the ability for me to know that you're going to do a thing. That's it, right? That's all we've got with it. But what that is just it's a bunch of little things, little costs that all add up to a big thing, which is the way we sort of double global economies again without using any extra resources or anything else. They just work better. Like, this is a good thing for this to happen. All right, what does this look like? So revolution, the world is going to start to look different. In the past 200 years, we've got used to the idea that industries exist for industry verticals, these stacks of things. You've got a government department of the health and the whatever at the top, and you've got a bunch of firms doing competition in their industry. And at the bottom, you've got governments, which sit across the whole thing inside nation states, and they provide all of the institutions. They do the cost, they do the trust. This is where at the bottom there, that law, regulation, money, identity, dealing with counterparties, safe and secure systems, court systems, judicial systems, blah, 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 trust, right? About 1/3 of the economy, give or take. When that goes wrong, broken economy, failed state. When it goes spectacularly well, Switzerland, Singapore, Australia-ish, pretty much. We are, right at the beginning of this transition, we've had sort of digital tech was another one, the ICT sector. Digital isn't a sector, it's the revolution. And what's going to happen is a digital economy looks very, very different to an industrial economy. It's a stack. And those of you who are software engineers in the room know what a stack is. This is a full stack economy where you've got the consensus layer agreement, the security layer encryption, the infrastructure transport layer, that's ICT, that's the thing, but that's also money and other sort of stuff. But we stack the economy up, and you notice we don't need nation states anymore. That's naturally a global economy. It's born global. What's the first example of that? Bitcoin. is the first sort of instance of that. Then we add identity, then we add contracting layers and all the other fun things. So digital, we're right at the beginning of that massive transition. When I say revolution, that's the nature of the revolution. The economy gets tipped on its side and starts to build itself differently, and thus it will be going forward. That's the world we're entering into. Again, not new. We've been building this for a while. The sort of blockchain tech convergence is basically two different bunches of tech, math and other math, basically math. But it started off as, in both cases, military technology that gradually became scientific technology that gradually became civilian technology, and that converged, this Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 story. Web 3, blockchain was the beginning of I said that sort of beginning of that revolution, but blockchain was the bit where those two things came together deeply. They'd slightly come together before with banking and being able to make payments on the web, but they're inseparable from here. Like, that's the geometry of what we're dealing with. What is a blockchain? A blockchain is a state machine. It's when the economy functions as a computer, as a state machine, which means I can trust state. What is state? Identity. Who are you? Who's the counterparty? Ownership. Who owns this dog? What promises has this dog made to other things? How can I, just all of that mundane accounting ledger details that we write down in records and registries and other sorts of things. And sometimes we write them in books inside banks, that's a bank. Sometimes we write them in property registries, that's government. But every time a transaction happens anywhere in an economy, a ledger entry changes, state. The state machine gets updated. We're about to completely turn an economy, which was an analog state machine that hasn't been updated in terms of the technology we use for that for about 300 or 400 years. 2009 suddenly got updated. Where we are right now, DeFi and DAOs and other sorts of tech, we're running through all the other sort of applications of that. That's the nature of the transition we're going through. Common knowledge. What a blockchain does is it enables an economy to work with common knowledge. We can all agree about intersubjective facts, like who is that person, what agreement, just boring administrative stuff. But upon those boring administrative facts, the global economy is built. And the parts of the global economy that work really well are the parts where those facts work really well. And the broken parts of the economy, the places where poverty lives, are where those facts do not work well. Cost of trust is high, and therefore economies don't work so well. So that's blockchains, that's ledgers. That's what a state economy as a state machine is. Let me give you another mental model, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. So Web 3 is sometimes derided as a bit of a marketing term around blockchain. It has meaning. What the meaning is the digital stack. It's when all of those components of the stack of an economy, of consensus, of communication, of transport, of security, of apps and agreements become fully digital, right? Web 1, internet, good, helpful, useful, profound, but ICT, communications technology. Web 2, we need to build economies on this. How do we do this? Trust problem. Use firms. That created all of the biggest firms in the world. Just they had to be huge because they're platform firms, so the search firms and the big bank and Amazon and so on and so on. But we grafted this layer of huge trust administration on top of the internet to get to kind of where we are today. Web 3, tear it all down, build it again, completely from scratch, the whole lot. We start again. Digital, we've got digital money, that's cryptocurrency, tick, got that one. Next, digital assets, what's that? That's that's the stock exchanges and all of the things, bonds. When we move through all of the digital assets, we tokenize them, we integrate them into this. Then we go digital identity, that's, we're kind of close to that as well. Oh, then we do credentials, verification of knowledge. All of this is technologically possible. The challenge right now is regulation and adoption. It's an innovation problem, not a technology problem. But we just work our way through that. That's the crypto winters and crypto summers, and that's the excitement, and that's what's going on in the background of crypto right now. Is the building out of that full stack suite. It'll get better. There's lots of horrible parts of that are scammy and broken. There's lots of amazing parts that'll grow. We are just seedlings in that stage. But that's the revolution. All right. So what? Once we do the base layer record keeping, the ledger keeping, who is that machine? What promises is that machine made? We stack all the other digital technologies on top of it. That's how we do economic automation as opposed to the sensory automation of IoT and LiDAR, and it can move around, it can navigate its environment, but it can't navigate, you can't make deals with it. You can't really partner with them yet. All right, so that's why we care about this. Blockchain's the base layer infrastructure in the same way that government is the base layer infrastructure for industrial economy. You build all the other stuff on top. All right, so what changes? Kind of everything is my argument. It's started. We're already a few weeks, months, years into this process. The things that shift here is that, you know, computers 50 years, internet 30 years, blockchain 3 years, really, 4 years, maybe. We're still we are so early in this process. But once we build upon this, what we end up with is industrialized trust. We end up with an economy that looks very different. We end up with these crazy things like NFTs, you know, JPEGs, monkey pics, whatever, collectibles. No, property rights, new digital property rights that we can build out. So there's a lot of things that have started at the moment still look like toys that are actually, we need to understand them as economic infrastructure, and that's what's coming. All right, so with that, tomorrow night in this very room, you're welcome to come along. We're launching D3, which is kind of the RMIT's response to how do we build a new type of digital business school around this. Thank you.
Oh my God, incredible. Thank you so much, Professor Jason Potts. Here's what we can do now. You've all been sitting for a while. If you need to stand up now and just do this. Does anyone need to just stand up and move their butts? We're not going to have a break. Yes, there are people stretching in the back. Great. We're not going to have a break. We're going to have just a minute of doing this. So you can move your bum and you can put blood back into your legs. And then you can all settle back down again. Settle back down. Sometimes you just need to stand up halfway through a thing. This might come as a surprise to you, but I might have ADHD and I need to stand up constantly. Brilliant. Our next wonderful speaker is RMIT alumni Rosanna Baini OAM. Rosanna Baini OAM was the first Lebanese woman to be appointed a Justice of the Peace in Victoria, and her decade of work with refugees led her appointment as the Commissioner for Multicultural Affairs. She is the 2020 recipient of the Medal of the Order of Australia, which is the OAM, a Victorian Honour Roll inductee, an Ambassador for Women on Equality, and a lecturer in health and biomedicine, presenting on using change to create opportunities. Please give a very warm welcome for Rosanna Baini.
Okay. I'm going to hang on here because you don't want me to tumble over the stage, so I'll stay here. Stay put. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so Australia the Great. Though your sovereign lies in southern Oceania, you are the centre of my universe. I'm a proud RMIT alumni. I graduated from RMIT University in 2003 with a Bachelor of Criminal Justice Administration with distinction. I've also completed other studies in areas of health science. I've also got postgraduate studies in tertiary education. I'm also completing my Master of Research, and my thesis is titled Regulation of Emerging Allied Health Professions in Australia. I've had a diverse employment background. I've worked in employment services, I've worked in settlement services, I've worked with refugees, with women, with youth. I've worked in justice, human resource, integrated management systems. I've had a very big background in the areas of justice. I served under 2 Victorian governments where I was on a number of boards with the Victorian Multicultural Commission as a commissioner. The late Fiona Richardson, MP, appointed me as an Ambassador for Women on Equality. I've been inducted into the Victorian Honour Roll of Women. And of course, as you said, one of my finest achievements is that in 2020, I was the proud recipient of the Order of Australia Medal in the Australia Day Honours Awards. As a mother of 5 exceptional children who are here tonight, and the grandmother of 4 gorgeous grandchildren, I have domestic duties and responsibilities too. I know the struggles that many face when they have to, navigate through the modern world. But I've been so blessed that through the love and admiration of my family, I've been able to, despite all the adversities, gain the strength to continue with the work that I do to empower and to inspire others to reach potentials they didn't know they had. Today, I'm completely honoured to have been selected as the RMIT alumni to speak to you and to tell you how I used change to create opportunities. My career path was not always straightforward, but change was my biggest motivator. From an evolutionary perspective, the human mind's primary goal is to keep us safe. Sometimes it leads to self-sabotage. We want to avoid the risks. We want to stay in our comfort zone, and it's easier to resist change. However, great things never come from mediocrity. By initiating and embracing change, we denounce settling for average and we strive for extraordinary. In fact, without the ups and downs that life throws at us, we might not feel that we are alive. I've had my fair share of ups and downs, especially losing my husband to a heartbreaking disease, younger onset Alzheimer's, through which I learned that I had to be strong. Life had to go on. I ask you to reflect on the screen. And this meme is basically telling us that life is very much like a heart ECG. If it flatlines, then we're in trouble. My late husband, my beloved Clark, once remarked, change should be meaningful. We probably shouldn't change just for the sake of change. And he would say, to change, we need to self-reflect on our capabilities and our efficiencies. And we need to first and foremost consider the meaningful purpose of that change and how we're going to use it to reach our outcomes and to improve our goals. Along the same vein, another great man in history, Robert Kennedy, once said, some people see things as they are and ask why. I see things as they could be and ask why not. These brilliant reflections are the first positive steps towards meaningful change. Now, change didn't just happen for me. It required deliberate action by me to make it happen. So how do we motivate ourselves for change? Let's think about that for a moment. Have you ever been afraid to change? It's the unknown phenomenon. It's too scary stuff. You're telling yourself you don't like change, and it plays with our brain. Yes, change might be too uncomfortable, but guess what? Changes are happening in our world every single day, because it is through change that we realise innovation and progress in humanity. Just reflect on that for a moment and think of all the pivotal shifts that we have had just in the last 3 or 4 decades. From the typewriter to the desktop computer, we've seen productivity, We've also realised technology and advancements in technology, or evolution in technology, from meeting in person across states, across nations, across countries, to meeting through video conferencing. We see cost efficiency and environmental consciousness. Just think of the smartphone alone. It allows you to shop. You can find directions, connect with your friends all over the world in an instant, order your food, listen to your favourite songs, make appointments, do your banking 24/7. This is all change. We're just not conscious of it all the time. And when we do become conscious of it, we become afraid and we become uncomfortable. So what do we do to overcome that fear and focus on being motivated to go through that change? So how do I motivate myself for change? For me, I've trained myself to do things that I'm afraid of. And through reflection, I've learned how to anticipate uncertainties and manage anxiety. We all have them. It's all about our self-concept, which stands in our way, especially when we start to question our capabilities, or even question whether or not we'd handle any of the consequences, and whether or not we would cope if we're in an embarrassing situation. I used to love jumping off cliffs into deep waters. Yes, as a teenager. So it's not something I would do anymore, but I started with self-doubt, telling myself that I couldn't do it. So as a teenager, it's hard to describe what finally motivates you to change and have that mindset that you can. I wanted to study and I had self-doubt. I wasn't sure if I was smart enough. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get through my university studies. I wasn't sure if I was good enough. So what did I do? I self-reflected. I looked at who am I? And I looked at what I could rather than what I could not do. I did this in very small steps. It's not something that just happened overnight. So to have the chance for me to sharpen my skills and build my knowledge, I needed to take risks. So if you're embarking on that new degree, or you're looking for that new job, or even starting that new business, then you need to start, remember that you cannot overwhelm yourself, and you need to reflect on who you are. We suffer what's called impact bias, particularly when we overwhelm ourselves with future events. Remember, we cannot predict the future. Most of what we do is unknown. So what is that telling us? We've taken risks most of our lives, and these pertain to change. So to motivate yourself for change, reflect on who you are and what you can do to contribute to society and what you can do for the community. But you've got to be realistic. At the same time, I ask you to reflect on the wonderful quote from the great industrialist, Henry Ford, who invented the production line which revolutionised the manufacturing of the motor vehicles. If you think you can do something, or you think you can't, in both cases you are right. So far, I've managed to say yes to opportunities. But I do want to stress that I do check in with myself to see if I'm okay and feeling okay mentally. So if you are feeling burnt out, you're feeling anxious or stressed, please know that it's okay to take a break from risk-taking and say no to opportunities. And if you want to improve and you want to do things that are different and you're looking at taking some risks and think that you would benefit from the support of family, educators, people in the field, then you need to motivate yourself towards getting into whatever it is that makes you interested. Move towards getting that help, okay? And this is what is going to motivate you and drive you to change. Now, I do appreciate that some people will find it very difficult to adjust to change, and you may want to stay in that comfort zone. But if you are serious about what you want to do with your life, then you need to take some steps. You need to self-reflect. Ask yourself, who am I? Self-reflect on who you are and how you fit into this world. Take on that new university degree. Speak to someone that can put you on the right path. Look at the positives that you would get from, completing a degree or taking on that new job. Most important is that you make the choice for yourself. You make the decisions for yourself. And all that is change. Focus on the now and how change impacts you and those around you. Taking risks right now could be right for you. Having a solid sense of self-worth is where self-belief and confidence will grow from. In philosophy, I teach my students to question everything and question things that you already know, which basically estranges them from the familiar by applying a new way of thinking. This encourages change. I'd like to finish by sharing with you another wonderful quote by Thomas Edison, a great American innovator who invented the light bulb and made such an unparalleled contribution to science and ingenuity. He said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. That means that if you want to be brilliant and you want to shine, particularly through change, there is no substitute for hard work. Bless you. Remember that in the world of success, the elevator does not go to the top. You must take the stairs. Carpe diem. Thank you.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Rosanna Baini OAM. Stunning. Ah, I love that. Thank you so much. Our penultimate speaker of the evening is Dr. Peter Thomas, Director of RMIT Forward in RMIT's College of Vocational Education, a centre focused on inventing skills solutions that will catalyse workforce development in the industries crucial to Victoria's economic renewal. Presenting on stories from the future of work, please give a very warm round of applause for Dr. Peter Thomas.
Thank you. So my name is Peter Thomas and I'm director of a centre called Forward, which is the Centre for Future Skills and Workforce Transformation. It's part of the College of Vocational Education. We're responsible for delivering 150 programs to nearly 20,000 learners in Australia and in places like Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi or Barcelona or Shanghai, all through our online courses anywhere in the world. And all of those courses prepare people for their careers. Now, my job is to help the college look into the future, not next year or the year after, but maybe 5 or 10 or 20 years into the future. And that's to help us figure out what courses we can develop to help you and people like you get ready for what's coming in the future of work. And what's coming, certainly as you heard from Jason earlier, is change. Almost everything is changing in the world of work. There are new kinds of jobs, new ways of working, new places to work, and new ways to think about what work is. And all of this will affect how you think about your future, regardless of where you are and how old you are in the world of work. So it will change the work you want to do, how you want to work, the life you want to live, and how it relates to everything else in your life. So I think that one of the best ways to think about the future is to tell stories. Now, we've only got a few minutes together, so I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories. I'll try and turn that light on. There we go. Kaylin, could you dim the lights a little bit, please? So because it's my story, and because I'm telling it, I can start anywhere I like, in the present, in the future, or in the past. And this story starts in 1850s New York. In 1854, Daniel McCallum took charge of the operations of the New York and Erie Railroad. The railroad had 500 miles of track, making it one of the world's longest, but it was inefficient, and not because of a lack of information. In fact, the telegraph, which had been invented in 1837, provided nearly real-time data on events like accidents and train delays that could cause real problems for railway networks. The problem was making use of the data. So what Daniel did, he developed something which was at that time an innovation, the organization chart. I'm sure you've seen one before. They usually show who reports to who, and the people at the top are in charge and the people at the bottom aren't. But unlike the charts we used to, Daniel's chart shows how the day-to-day scheduling and operation of the railways was moved down the line to the superintendents. Let's see that in more detail. He did this because the superintendents who work on the lines are best placed to manage the network. And that's what his organization chart shows. Now, when you look at it, Daniel's org chart is really modern. It shows an organization where people work together, but in autonomous groups. They share information, they make decisions, and they decide how best to use what they have. And I think this is the future of work. It's what's called work as an ecosystem. And an ecosystem is just as it sounds, just like in nature, it's all about lots of things living together and changing in response to each other. There's no big plan. Now, if you want to learn just how powerful ecosystems are, you should go and read about what happened when wolves were reintroduced into the Yellowstone Park. It's a fascinating story, but it's one that I don't have time to tell. Now, an organization that's an ecosystem isn't an organization where every detail of your job is spelled out. It's not an organization where someone else makes the decisions and you carry them out. It's not an organization where you do what you're told, you do what you need to do. Some companies have adopted this approach very successfully. In fact, around about 8% of companies globally are using this ecosystem approach. One of them is a company called Hair that makes home appliances like fridges and air conditioners. It's got 100,000 employees in 160 countries and revenues of almost 50 billion Australian dollars. And their CEO, Zhang Rumin, says what you can see here. Our company is better thought of as a rainforest or a self-adapted ecosystem. We have 4,000 micro-enterprises which work with each other to form communities. We have more than 100 startups, 4 of which are already publicly traded companies. In fact, they've incubated gazelles and unicorn companies from hire, so extraordinarily valuable companies. So if this is the future, ecosystems, how do you prepare for it? What skills will you need to thrive and to excel and to be happy too? So organizations like the World Economic Forum try to predict the top skills that people will need in the future. And here is what they think you'll need to know or be able to do. So if you look at that list, it includes problem solving, working with people skills. It includes skills about technology, some of the technologies that Jason talked about earlier, so blockchain and Web3 and 5G and 6G and all those things. But it also talks about being able to manage yourself, such as being a good learner. So in this story from the future of work, where organizations are ecosystems, you have to learn some new skills in order to be able to thrive. And perhaps the best way to do that is both through experience And of course, by doing courses that let you develop skills like critical thinking or communication skills. So let me tell you my second story. And because it's my story, because I'm telling it, I can start anywhere I like, in the present, in the future, or in the past. So welcome to 1917 and the Hello Girls. These were the female switchboard operators for the US Signal Corps. Of course, this job, humans doing this job, started to disappear when IVR systems that let you navigate a menu by speaking on the phone appeared. In fact, I spent a very unhappy 30 minutes doing that today because I'm moving house at the weekend. But now a new kind of technology is taking over. It's called conversational AI. It's what runs chatbots and digital agents and more really sophisticated digital people like Viola from the company Soul Machines, who you can see here. Now, this industry didn't even exist 5 years ago. AI and other technologies created it, and now it's growing at an incredible rate. More than 3,000 chatbots come online each week on the Microsoft bot framework, and chatbots are expected to be the primary customer service channel for a quarter of organizations in the next 5 years. And almost half of companies will implement conversational AI within 3 years. And so there are jobs for people with all kinds of skills to become what are now called conversation designers. People with marketing skills or psychology skills or design skills or technology skills. Now in the College of Vocational Education, we've started up courses in conversational AI, and they help teach people just like you the kind of skills they need to be able to build things that me and you and people like you will interact with every day. Chatbots, voice assistants, and even digital people like Viola, using your phone or your Google Home or in millions of websites. Kaylin, you can put the lights back up, thank you. So I've told you two stories that show how much things are changing in the world of work. One was about how organizations will work in the future and about some of the skills you'll need to develop. One was about how fast technologies are changing the world of work and how new jobs are appearing all the time. Now, you might already know this, but RMIT was founded as the Working Men's College in 1887. And its motto was, a skilled hand, a cultivated mind. Now, as I hope that both these stories from the future of work have shown you, the people who will be successful and happy and have interesting careers will need both human skills and technical skills. So a skilled hand and a cultivated mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Thomas, everybody. And if you do get a chance, please do watch a documentary about how wolves saved Yellowstone. It is fascinating. Our final speaker of the evening is Navdip Kalsi, Director of Customer Success Architecture at GitHub. Navdip Kalsi is a thought leader, technologist, strategist, and expert in digital transformation. In 2020, she was a technical leader finalist in the Digital National Awards. Today, she is leading the way in agile engineering, cutting edge technologies, and enterprise transformation programs. Presenting on connecting to transformative technologies. Please give a very, very warm round of applause for Navdip Kalsi.
Hello, everyone. And first of all, thanks for being here. And this is our last session. And I'll be honest, I was sitting in the audience and I was listening to all the sessions. I really liked how we spoke about the change, how we spoke about the spot, and also the blockchain and also the future and how it's changing. And today I'm going to talk about how we are going to connect with the transformative technologies. So let me see. Okay. So before we go more into the transformative technologies, it's very easy, as the name indicates, it's something which is transforming, but still I like to define it not by what Google has said, because if you go to Google and just try to Google what is transformative. There is a very big fancy definition which says a software, hardware which changes. And I say, oh, that's making technology again a difficult topic. So let's make it very easy. What is transformative technologies? It's something which is going to redefine our world. It is game changing, change in a human psychological experience. And one of the examples which Nithya showed about Spot was very much like how nursing and others are going to use it. This is how the technology helps us. So before we go more into it, I would like to introduce myself. So who is Navdip? So I'm a director for customer success in GitHub, Microsoft. I'm a thought leader, motivational speaker for women in technology. I'm a mentor and the technologies which really keep me motivated. And I've kind of say that, yes, I'm very, I'm expert is the cloud computing, DevOps, DevSecOps, and the automation. And I have also mentioned my LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me for any of the questions which may be in the networking if I'm not able to answer. So I'll give you a few examples of transformative technologies, and these are just the few examples which I would say are the top 6, because these are the top 6 which we all are seeing in our day-to-day life. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cloud computing, IoT, and also the automation. But there are a lot more, and there is no end. But again, let's stick to the first top 6. So the question which I ask, because I always say technology is everywhere, but do we see these technologies in our day-to-day life? I'll say yes, actually, because we all are so much exposed to the technology that in our day-to-day actions, we are making use of these technologies. So when COVID was the time, now I consider it is gone as gone, because now we are doing our face-to-face conferences, which was not happening from last 2 years. Skype, Zoom, all those tools what we were using actually make use of cloud. And Alexa, Google Home, which most of the younger kids also say, hey Google, switch on the TV, hey Google. This is nothing but an example of artificial intelligence. Then Facebook, I'm sure most of us make use of Facebook. As soon as we upload the pictures, what Facebook give you the option? It gives you the option of tagging people. That is nothing but a machine learning examples. Coming to cybersecurity, in the recent, I'm sure we all are aware, in the recent few weeks, we have seen a lot of data breach happening. I'm not going to name, but this shows how cybersecurity is becoming very, very important. And I'm sure we all use our emails. So if we are doing 2-factor authentication, I would say we have just done 1% of it. But yes, we are on the right path. Coming to IoT, which one of our presenter also did touch a little bit on it in the blockchain, is the Fitbit. That is the watch we use. That is a very good example of the Fitbit. Now coming to the automation, which I really like, I'll not go too much into it, but I always say automation is something which is our future, and it is going to become our future. Again, I go back to Spot, very good example of automation that shows how we are going into the future using the automation. But again, it comes to, because when we are connecting to the transformative technologies, the question is what it actually means to you, or what future holds for it. Coming from a technical background and working in the technology from last 22 years, I always say, take a pause. First, understand what technology you want to learn or what technology means to you. That is, out of all the transformative technology, all the digital transformation, or what all we are using, do you really want to make use of everything, or you really want to pick one and then start exploring and going deep into it? But more than that, before you take any technology, I always say understand why. I'll explain how I started. So when I was in a career where I really wanted to understand which way to go, is it security, something which I really want to do, or is it the cloud computing is something which I want to go further? And that was something because I came from a programming background, and Before cloud, it was always the data centers. So whenever I thought about networking, it was a lot of wires. Whenever I thought about storage, for me, storage was that kind of a box. So that was how I was imagining. And what fascinated me about cloud computing was like, is it possible that without wires, I can still do the networking? Is it possible that I can do storage in someone's data center and I don't even need to worry about it? And that was something which I started related. So cloud computing was the one which I started my passion of technology, I would say. I started with Amazon, then Azure, Google Cloud. Yes, today I'm in Microsoft, so Azure is my top one favorite. But this is why I'm saying is till you don't understand why you're learning or why you need that particular technology, it will be like you have technologies around you, but you will not know the use of it. So once you have picked what you like, where you want to go deeper into it, that is where you allocate the time to research. Put your knowledge to test. When I say put your knowledge to test, till you're not validating it, you will not know whether you have learned it or not. Share your knowledge with others. This is what I started doing. But this is the question which most of my sessions, because I do a lot of lectures, most of the students come and ask me, there are a lot of technologies, which one you want to do? Again, I say, pick one, go deep into it. Believe me, once you have done one, it will become very easy for you to connect to the others and you can start learning. And is there a formula that we can learn all the technologies? I would say, no, there is no formula. Just pick one, start your journey, because again, I'll relate to the change and the risk, our previous presentation, where we say that we really need to keep our mind motivated. Human mind is very tricky. It likes to start things. It likes to understand, this technology is very fascinating. Like today, most of us sitting here in the room, they must be very fascinated to understand about the spot more because we saw something, right? But whether we are going to keep ourselves motivated, that is where start counting your wins. Pick a technology, go deep into it, but please pick one to start with. So this is where I would like to conclude that transformative technologies, there are a lot of them, but again, what it means to each one of us is going to differ depending on how we are going to understand, how we are going to gain the information and validate it and test it. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again to all of our presenters this evening. Thank you to everyone who came out tonight. All of you wonderful, wonderful people. Don't forget, you can network out in the foyer. All of the presenters will be out there. Please go and speak to them. Go and ask them all of the questions that you want to ask them. Spot will be up on stage if you would like to talk to Spot. Just have a chat with the RMIT staff in the foyer about course and study opportunities or any other questions. You can talk to career consultants out there who can assist you with one-on-one tailored career advice for your employment or if you want to advance your career. You guys have all been wonderful. I've been Andy Ballock. Have an exceptional evening. Good night.